Good morning and welcome to Rock and Recovery. Your host is me, Jay. I've got a special guest, Leah. She's also a Colorado native. Let's go, Colorado. I'm just saying, how's it going this morning?
It's going great. How about you?
I am doing, I've been under the weather a little bit, under the weather. It's 70 degrees here. It can't be bad. I don't have any snow, so there's always that.
Well, it's 70 degrees here too, so there's that.
Okay, well, fine. I got beaches. Yeah, I got mountains. uh, that's funny. So, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and what you do and how?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me, Jay. Appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you for coming.
It's really become part of my mission in life to just normalize so many experiences that so many humans go through. And so sharing our stories is an important part of that. And so that's, one of my things. So my story starts really rooted in politics, which is crazy. So I had a 25-year career in politics.
Wow.
That I did everything, national campaigns here locally in Colorado. I was an elected official myself. And through all of that, what I have now discovered in hindsight was it was the most unhealthy place that I could possibly be. Because what it did is it fueled this addiction to success, this overwhelming need to prove something and be the most successful ever, whatever that even means. I don't even know.
Was it like a power addiction?
No, it was
Just
not.
the
It
success.
was it was like I needed to prove it. Like the next
Mm.
accolade was what would make me worthy and not hate myself. It would it's what I believed would fulfill me and make me lovable if I got elected or I got the next award or I got to higher office. It had nothing to do with the actual roles or what it was how it filled my soul or made or didn't rather because when inevitable failures came, my secondary addiction was alcohol and I drank to fill the voids. And
Mm.
so it got pretty dark there for a while. Um and after two suicide attempts while I was an elected official
Wow.
self, I had two really small children at that point, and I knew something needed to change because if it didn't, not only was I going to perpetuate cycles of generational trauma for my kids, I was going to make it worse if I wasn't here. And so, it's that moment, it's that turning point in a journey of active addiction to realizing there has to be more, and I want to find it. And so I stopped. I asked for help. I went to rehab. And while I was there, while I quit drinking, what the most important thing is I wrote my press release to withdraw from my reelection campaign and pulled out of that space, kind of. Still took me 5 years to fully kick that habit. But, once I started to release that need to prove something, that external identity, that my worth came from somebody else, it really became easy to figure out who I was and the story I wanted to tell, which was that we don't have to do what we're supposed to do. You can lean into what your muse and your spirit is calling. So today I am an artist, author, and I lead spiritual retreats in Mexico.
That is awesome. I don't know much. I understand the need to be the validation aspect of the not the power, but just achieving more. A lot of times we have the addiction of just more. We want more. We want more. What makes us feel good or doesn't make us feel good. We want more of whatever. And so I definitely understand that addiction to success. Yet, everybody's definition of success is different. So how did you deal with that? Was it just in your mind? I need to be successful at this. The next best thing is raising to the top, to the top, to the top, to the top more.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I was so deep in that cycle. Like I mentioned, I had two suicide attempts that were one that was really serious. And 2 weeks later, I found myself sitting at a table of community leaders talking about running for higher office.
Mm,
Like, I was so broken, I was so in the depths of darkness that the way I saw out was either ending my own life or getting elected to higher office. Like, that's what I believed would make me feel better and make me feel complete and finally make me happy. Um, and so once I finally got off that merry-go-round of like, my worth does not come from those accomplishments. My worth, and it's not going to make me love myself more because I get these accomplishments. I have to learn to love myself because of just genuinely who I am and give myself grace. And so once I got off that merry-go-round and realized that my worth didn't come from those accomplishments, and that's when everything started to shift. But that was years and years of work to break down the I hate myself, to give myself grace and love, to
mm.
into this space of, I'm doing a pretty good job just as a human, and I should just give myself some grace. And so yeah,
So it was the whole you didn't like yourself enough that so everybody else has to like you to feel validated?
absolutely right.
Yeah. What was that recovery process like?
It was slow.
I bet, it's the whole rewiring of the brain, first of all.
Well, yeah, I mean, for so long, that's where I sought my worth and my identity. I mean, when I
Mm,
finally quit a 25-year career in politics, I started when I was 14, and I literally worked on a campaign every November through 25 years until I didn't, right? And
so
so,
basically, that's what you'd be doing right now.
yeah, right. I would have woke up today in a totally different place, but I'm like, it's the day after election. It's such a different world for me right now.
Like, who got elected? I don't care right now. I'm not into that anymore. Yeah.
Uh, I mean, it's important still, but it just, you know, my desire to do it came from this place where I wanted to change the world. I wanted to make a
Mm,
difference. I wanted to make things better. And what I came to understand is I couldn't actually help make things better. I couldn't heal the collective trauma if I didn't heal my own trauma first. And so now I understand that I spent all these years building advocacy campaigns for everything else and everyone else but myself. And it was really when I started to shift and focus on building my own self advocacy campaign and taking care of my own mental health and healing my own wounds so then I could help impact the collective trauma. And from there, I realized I did change the world, but it was simply because I changed my own. So,
absolutely. You probably change everybody else's life just being around them also. So you are effectively changing the world. Even it might be on a minute scale, but you're still changing the world.
yeah, well, it's just a different philosophy, right? Like
Right.
it's how
Absolutely.
you approach. I think again, we have this supposed to, like, this is how I was supposed to change the world. Uh, but the reality is the real way I've changed the world is by changing my own. I mean, I've changed my children's lives. I stopped cycles of generational trauma and addiction. You know,
That's changing the world right there.
I'm certainly not happy all the time, but I have found so much joy. And, that's joy to me is about living the richness of life, right? Like feeling all of the emotions, feeling the good and the bad and, the hard, it's inevitable. The healing part becomes our choice. So,
I know you said you attempted your suicide twice. A little bit of my backstory is that's the only reason I got clean and sober is because I found my wife hanging in our closet. She was an addict and had mental health issues, but despite that, she was never very openly. You couldn't tell, and she would. One morning it was just bad, and that's I left and came back, and that's how I found her. And I was suffering in my own addiction, so I really couldn't tell anyway, if she was suffering or not. It was just okay, we're two separate worlds that just happen to live together and make something work. And that just goes to say, did you have to mask a lot? I know you said you're working on a campaign right after that, so you're dying on the inside and just everybody else never knew.
Yeah. I mean, first of all, Jay, just to acknowledge, the journey is hard,
It
and
is.
I'm deeply sorry for your the hard parts of the journey too. But but yeah, masking was, I mean, a huge, it's how I survived, right? Like, I mean, and at the end, like toward when it got like really, really bad, people knew, like it was clear. I mean, you could see it in my eyes. Like I look at pictures of myself, like
Mm.
in those moments of the deep, dark sadness parts of my life. And my son will look at pictures of me then, and he was, one, two-ish at that point. And he'll be like, "Who's that?" Like, he doesn't even recognize
Wow.
me when he looks at pictures from that point in my life, because I was a shell of a human. I wasn't embodying myself or my soul or my spirit. I was just surviving, and that's it. And I was barely doing that. And but, prior to that, for years and years, I just kept showing up and pretending like everything was okay. I mean, I in my book, I tell the story about how when I ran for office election in 2015, I actually found out I was pregnant, and I had a
Wow.
miscarriage the day ballots dropped. I went to the emergency room, took care of that, went to a GOTV rally, and nobody knew. And so it was just like I was living two different lives, like this external one that I had everything together and I was fine and I could be the perfect mom and the elected official and I could do it all. And it was total crap. Like I wasn't doing it all. It was falling apart. And so, and
The
it eventually
stress of
ca-
projecting somebody that you're not.
yeah.
Yeah. And that also led into alcoholism, so you, man, that just sucks. I mean, yeah, what are you supposed to, it's like, okay, so this ain't working, so let's try this. Oh, now I'm freaking an alcoholic and I'm this. So it's like, Jesus, that had to have been hard to get over. What was your drive and determination like to get over that? I mean, I know you said it took a long time, but still, what was your motivating factor?
I mean, my kids,
Yeah.
like my husband one night just said, I don't think this is really how you want your kids to see you. I don't think, they were so little at that point. Is he was like, we can't do this. You can't do this. This isn't what you want. You need or is it? You know?
Right.
And I think that's part of like effective advocacy from others in your life is like putting the questions back on you, right? Like so much of an addiction journey is full of this shame and guilt and like you're doing terrible things, and like something that drives me crazy is when people are like, "Oh, she has a drinking problem," and I'm like, "Well, I had a trauma problem." The drinking was a symptom. and and so, when someone actually gets to the root of the things instead of staying on that surface and like leaning into that shame and guilt thing that just eats you alive, or for me it just ate me alive, like which is why I wanted to kill myself. It was like
Right.
I am a horrible human being. I cannot do this. I'm not doing it well. So why keep trying? And but it became that realization that I could do it differently. And I know, like, so the night that I heard my husband say it, now I'm sure he'd said it many times before, but the night I heard him say, "Are you sure? Like, is this how you want to live?" Like, it registered different. And I was like, "No, I don't. I'm miserable." And I literally called my dad that night and he took me to rehab. And I woke up the next morning in the detox facility and I was like, holy shit, what have I done? Like, because I was an elected official at that moment. If anyone found out I was in rehab, I believed my life was over. But what I
You
realized
know,
is it was just beginning in such
I like to say addiction is a side effect of what we're going through because we don't start off as an addict. We never do. It's just the way we cope or make ourselves feel better or just to forget. And it's a side effect of going through whatever we're going through. We just choose to see it the wrong way sometimes. And once we do start working on that core issue, once we're able to work on that core issue, it opens up the world to for us to see better, for us to think clearer, for us to just get through without that problem. Now we got to forget everything that we learned the bad way and then relearn a new way. Yeah, is that what finding fantastic joy is about?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I haven't talked about like the healing part, the recovery part, the part that's, it actually started 15 years ago. So I've been sober 7-ish. So half the time. But I mean, for me, the journey started when I went on my first spiritual journey 15 years ago. And it cracked something open and shifted my belief in everything. And I describe it as like two parallel tracks. So I had this track where I started to realize, like, for me, my spiritual connection is really in the divine feminine, right? And this idea that I didn't have to earn maternal love, it was
Mhm.
just there. And spirituality could be feminine and colorful and things that I wasn't told in the United States. And so when I started to explore that differently, I would go months, even in those early years, maybe a year where I didn't do anything with it, where I didn't meditate, where I didn't take time to go into nature and just be with myself. But it cracked open that door. And so over the years, it was like this slow line that started to go up and create more meaning and more connection. And what I was also doing through all of that was using creativity. And I've always used creativity. I've journaled, I've doodled to process my trauma since I was a teenager. And so, those two things were intertwined and they are so deeply intertwined for me still. And as they started to really elevate, and then I think the turning point was really when that became the dominant narrative and my trauma became the narrative that was no longer dominating everything about me. I mean, it wasn't my story for so long was, my relationship with my mom was terrible. I was sexually assaulted, all of those things. The victim story was my story. But when the healing story became my narrative instead of the trauma story, that's really when everything shifted. And the power, then I've gotten trained as an intentional creativity teacher, which is the idea that you can use creativity to rewire your brain. You can access and release and receive different things to process that trauma and heal. And so it was through those things that slowly over time allowed me to rewire my brain and find that hope and connection that I so desperately longed for. And really, I feel like was the person I was inside of me all the time. But going back to being who I was supposed to be versus who I really genuinely was. So it was a long journey, but we got there.
That's all that matters. As long as you got there,
Right.
that's the biggest thing is getting they always say it's the journey. It's not the destination, it's the journey. But in this case, it is the damn destination, because the journey made us get to the destination, I guess. But what I'm trying to say is, I don't know.
I think
you
I
know,
mean, it's so different for everyone, right?
It really is. I know that, you know, living in Colorado the way I did, and in northern Colorado, there's a big, huge drug epidemic, you know, big, huge. I've known so many people that have OD'd from up there. I was in the drug game up there, in the drug world up there. And it's just crazy because I got out of it. And some of the prosecutors up there that I've talked to, they prosecuted me for the I did almost 20 years in prison. And they're like, Jay, we try to send you away for life. We try to send you do this, do that. And we're going to dismiss these cases just because of your recovery. And you've come so far in such a short time that just keep doing it. We expect big things out of you now. I'm like, well, thanks. I don't know what you're talking about, but, and I think finding the peace and the joy in life after getting sober and in recovery is some of the best possible healing that you can have.
Oh, well, I, I mean, it's that idea that you can't really appreciate the light until you fully know the dark, right? And so
Right.
people who have lived through active addiction, they know we know the dark. We've been
Yeah.
there. It's not fun. It sucks. And so, I mean, it makes me wake up grateful every day that I made the choice to give myself a chance and do things differently. And, I look at my children's faces and their laughter, and it's just like, how am I so lucky that I was able to somewhere in the spark of my soul and existence say enough and do it differently, because I know that's not the case for everyone, right? And so, like, just being living in that gratitude for being alive, like, it's amazing.
It really is. It
Yeah.
it gives you a whole new look on, life. It gives you a whole new outlook.
And, I think that's the thing when people find themselves in that darkness. I don't I still, even as much work as I've done, try and dig deep to, like, what it is. What was the spark that, like, pulled me out? And, it definitively was my kids, but at some point I still had to make that decision. And I often search, like, in my body and myself, like, where was that? Where was that, to connect to that person who wanted to survive, like, knowing that and being grateful to that part of me. So,
Do you still have any like triggers or moments of like, ugh, I wish I could do this, today?
well, an election is a trigger.
Well, it is in November, so so how do you deal with those triggers?
Uh, it's been, I drive by and I see all the yard signs and I'm like, okay, I don't care. I don't care. I'm letting it go. I'm
Turn
letting
off the
it go.
news, no TV.
Um, no, you know, all joking aside, like, that there genuinely, there's that, because my ego kicks in. Like, for
Right,
me, like, the politics thing was like, I also did it. There, I mean, there was a level of it. Like, I said, there wasn't about power, but there was an importance and stature, and that made me feel good because I
right.
was looking for that feeling, that feel good. And so that did come with that experience for sure. And my ego told me that I needed to do it because of that. And then it would say, well, if you're not there doing the work, who's going to do it?
Who's gonna
Right.
do it?
That whole narrative. But the real question became not so much if I wasn't there, who was going to do the work, but was I going to be able to survive it? Like,
Mhm.
right. And so I came to understand that, like, quitting, um, it's not failure. It's actually this amazing opportunity we get for creative reinvention. And that's true of anything, right? Like, quitting drugs or alcohol gives you this amazing opportunity for creative reinvention. Quitting a job that's eating you alive gives you an amazing opportunity for creative reinvention. So it's just, I that politics thing, I could spin a message. It's spinning that message and saying, no, instead of thinking of it as failure, think of it as a opportunity for creative reinvention. And so often when you're in addiction cycles too, there's other factors, whether it's a job or toxic relationships, that being brave enough to quit those two allows you to shift and change your space enough that then, you can give yourself a chance to succeed. Because there's no way, if I would have stayed as an elected official, I could have survived.
Right. And I'm sure there's those fleeting memories. I could do a whole lot better than that person. And you have to get over those and just remember why you're in recovery. Speaking of recovery, what has recovery meant for you?
Uh, I mean, it's I've redefined my entire life. I've fully
Yeah.
transformed. I mean, my story is from politician to painter. Like,
Wow.
I have gone from a life of supposed tos and external accolades and pressure and anxiety and panic attacks. I mean, because even after I quit, I withdrew from my reelection campaign, I still worked in politics for 5 years because it was my identity.
Wow.
I could not let it go. Uh, and so it took me that long to shed all of that, which is because we live in this place of supposed to. And sometimes, very often, it's okay to make your own rules and not lean into that and lean into what your soul is calling.
Absolutely. And what was your soul calling?
To be creative, to do art, to write, to tell my story, to empower others to heal, because healing is possible. And when you said, Jay, that some of the prosecutors said they expected more of you, I've always leaned into that space of, to those who are given much, much is expected, right? And
Right.
so it's that idea that I have this story, and the more I can tell it and the more people can hear it and know that, like, especially women and mothers, that you don't have to have it all together. Like, I don't. I, I still, constantly am not doing the right thing, but I'm showing up with the right intention, and I care, and I love my kids, and those sorts of things. Like, when we give ourselves permission to not be okay and not have it all together, it sure makes life a hell of a lot easier.
Yeah, because let's be real. How many of us really have it all together all the damn time? No one.
They're
I-
lying if they tell you they do.
They are absolutely lying if they're telling you that. You
Yes.
know. So I know. Did you have to? I know in recovery it's talked about higher power, and mine is Jesus Christ. Did you have to rely on a higher power?
Yeah, I mean, mine is, like I said, the divine feminine. So mine became this awareness and knowledge and acceptance and, you know, just all of it in my being, that spirituality could be feminine too.
Yeah.
And, I've done a lot of work in Mexico. I actually lead women's retreats to Teotihuacan.
Oh wow.
They're outside of Mexico City. They're retreats really to help return to yourself, right? Like,
Yeah.
connect to that divine that's in you. And so it's been a significant part of my journey. And for me, I seek church and nature and that space. And but it's through intentionality and ceremony and that connection that I think is so important. And so no matter what your higher power is, uh, it's just having that, right? Having those elements that allow you to go outside of yourself and realize something bigger, but also then realize that's within you. It's
Right.
it's this So yes, it is still very much. It's my whole life.
I know you said you had an addiction to success. What does that mean in your life now? What does success mean? What is success defined now as?
Yeah. Well, am very aware and try and be very cognizant of it because of that, right? So, as I write books, and I just did a TED Talk back in September, as I get these accomplishments, being really aware and really intentional about how I go through them and the process. Um, I remember at the TED Talk, someone was talking about, oh, once you have a TED Talk, then it can go do this and this and this.
Uh,
And I was sitting there and I was like, for me today, I'm just going to enjoy this experience, right? Like this was my goal, and here I am, and I am honoring it and the process to get here. And so it's much more fulfilling because it's not always just about the end goal. It's about the entire process to get there and enjoying that. I enjoy writing. I enjoy painting. I enjoy doing the things that I'm putting out into the world, that people look back at me and then define them as success or not. Right. And so
right.
but I have to catch myself, and I have to be overtly aware, and I have to be really intentional, and I have to say, why am I doing this? What is the goal?
What's the benefit towards? Yeah. I mean, I can understand and I can see how one would lead into the other, especially, it's like, okay, I got good reviews on that, or okay, let's do the next one. Ooh, bad reviews. Does that affect your life now? And that, or are you just, like you said, just aware of it?
I mean, it affects me a lot less, I think, now, because there's an acceptance. I mean, I also worked in politics, so people can say really mean
Yeah.
things about me,
Yeah.
like, and then I used to say when I was in politics that actually no one could run a better negative campaign against me than me. So I'm like, try and beat me at my negative campaign. I'm so good at it.
Absolutely. We are our own worst critic. That's for sure.
Right. And so, after all those years in politics and all of the things people said, like, I've learned that they're going to love you or they're going to hate you, or they're going to hate you and then they're going to love you. It's just like you're never going to win. And so at some point I have just that people pleasing, that releasing it. I'm me. You take it or you leave it. This is what you get. I show up with, my Guadalupe earrings and my divine feminine, and spreading the love and energy that I feel. And that's what I do. So,
So tell me about your book.
yeah. So my book, Finding Fantastic Joy, I published in 2022. It's a lot of my story out of the darkness, talking about some of the traumas I had that got me there. And I took, at that point, I was still working in politics, but really had this desire to start moving somewhere else. But I took the experience I knew of building advocacy campaigns and turned it on its head. So the subtitle is, how building a self advocacy campaign helped me out of darkness, because I learned how to advocate for myself and finding the tools. And honestly, as I think about what I teach my children, there is nothing more important than that. Knowing how to advocate for yourself and the things you need, and knowing it's okay to say you need help, and that you can navigate the world by asking for things instead of just always being stoic and acting like you have it all together.
Right.
Mm. So yeah, so that was the first book. I have my second book coming out at the beginning of next year, which is well, it's the working titles are either Girl Baptize Yourself or From Politician to Painter. But this taking very practical tools through my journey that have helped me move into healing and find that space of peace and love that I exist in.
So I know you said you're a painter. I mean, from politician to painter. That
Yeah.
sounds like a great book title. I'm just saying.
Yeah.
But
I'm
what
getting
inspired you?
passionate.
What actually inspired you to paint? What type of art do you do?
So I do mostly acrylic painting. And I've like I said, creativity's always been something I've used to process my trauma. I've journals, dozens of journals from over the years, that have drawings and poems and magazine cutouts and all of the things. So it was always something that I used, and I love it. Like, I love painting. I love being in that space, that flow, that connection when, your brain shuts off and you just are
Just in a zone.
in the moment. And painting gets me there really quickly. And so it's, you know, it's
It's
an
like a
opportunity
meditation.
to live life doing something I love.
Yeah. Do you find it super healing because everything inside is coming out and it's on paper? Do you find it's like a journal? Is it like that for you? Is it, you know,
Yeah, for sure. And in fact, that's what I teach these days is intentional creativity, medicine painting, which is that idea of using the canvas as a portal for your healing. So as you put layers into it, you're releasing heavy things, releasing that pain, and you're literally then turning that energy in your mind into matter. I mean, it becomes energy into matter and matter into energy, right? So then you free up space in yourself to allow you to receive new things because you've let that out, or vice versa. I mean, one of the little practices I tell people to do often is just little prayer dots. And so, because it does that exact thing. So if you're in a meeting, if you're somewhere where you're just like, I don't want to be here, I'm bored, I'm miserable, any of the above, or I'm great and I'm happy and I love my life, any of those emotions, just doodle, draw little dots, draw little
uh,
stars, draw little lines, draw little hearts, but draw them with intention. So
okay.
either with the intention of releasing something that's heavy or receiving something. So receiving love, receiving gratitude, praying into self-love, praying into grace. If you're sitting in that space of self-judgment and that critic is really loud, just be like, I give myself grace, I give myself grace, I give myself grace. But that mantra, those prayer dots allow you then to take the energy that you're feeling and turn it into matter, which is very scientific actually. It's that energy into matter, and it allows you then to move into a different space and rewire your brain differently.
Well, that's awesome. Because I literally was just kind of like prayer dots. What are you drawing prayer dots for? I'm like, are you drawing in the Bible on something to pray on? That's so.
And you can do whatever you want with the prayer dots, but just pray into the dots.
Because literally, I'm like, okay, dot on my hand. Okay,
There you go.
ow.
So you just change energy into matter.
That's funny. I mean, I can understand the science behind it and the reasoning why it would work. Absolutely, you just let it out, so it no longer needs to be inside, and it doesn't affect you anymore. That's like when we tell our story or we share with somebody, we let it out, so we don't have to be afraid of it anymore. You
Exactly.
know, you know. I know it works. It's worked for me. I don't know about anybody else, but I know it works for me.
Release and receive, release and receive. I
And
know it works too because it's worked for me. So
And you're absolutely right because it does free up space for us to receive the good. You know,
mhm,
if we're so full of bad energy, how are we going to get anything good unless we release the bad? Let it go.
let it go. There you go.
The ice age or what the free
Frozen,
frozen
yeah.
frozen. Okay, I knew it was one of those things. I'm more like the little ice age squirrel. I think that was totally squirrel moment, but hey, it fits. Hey, you didn't know you're going to have such a good laugh, did you?
No, I love it. It's great.
So, how did you? I mean, I know you talked about some childhood traumas, and uh, as a mom going through all these addictions, How did it affect your kids, and how did you deal with that pressure uh, of raising your kids and then still being healing from past.
Yeah, I said they were really young when I decided to officially quit city council and drinking. And so, I think so much of anything with our kids is demonstrating, right?
Right.
And it's not
Leading by example.
what we say, but how we act. And what that comes from me, and the way that manifests for me in a really big way is admitting when I'm wrong, because I'm wrong a lot. I don't do it right all the time. And in fact, like, I have a daughter who just started middle school, and middle school is really hard. I don't know if you
Oh,
remember, but
oh,
yeah. And I keep telling her, like, I'm not going to get this right. I'm going to do things wrong. I am not going to show up exactly how you want me to. I'm 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 just going to mess it up. Like, I'm not going to do things right. But I want you to know I am coming at it every single time with the intention of love, and that I care for you so deeply, and I want nothing but the best for you. So when I mess up, I'm sorry. And then when I do mess up, I acknowledge that and say I'm sorry. Um, because those were two things I didn't hear a lot as a kid was I'm sorry and I love you. And
right.
those are two really powerful phrases that build healthy relationships, because that's where we're at, right? Like, we're human, we're going to mess up, but we're doing the best we can, and acknowledging that. And then, just saying, like, I love you all the time. Those are two really
Powerful words.
small things, but
Yeah.
actually quite powerful. So,
And you're right. Middle school is the it's the freaking okay. So you got elementary, then middle school. Middle school is where they learn either they're going to love school or they're going to hate it going into high school. Plain and simple. You know, that's the proving ground, basically. To everything else. I mean, all life could be explained in between middle school and high school, and period.
there's so much truth to that, for
There
sure.
really is,
Yeah.
because you learn you're starting to come into your own attitudes and whatever else. And then middle school, oh, look at all these other people. I got to fit in. Or just be yourself, you know?
Well, and that's where I think, like, the supposed to start, right? I mean, they
They
start
are.
way younger than that, but this idea of what success looks like and what you're supposed to do. And, you know, for me, I leaned into it in a really unhealthy way. And it did early on. I mean, in high school, I was all the things, right? Student body president and captain of the debate team and captain of the golf team and just
Oh,
everything.
yeah. I was none of those.
I know I was one of the, but I leaned into that supposed to be.
Right.
That's who I thought I was supposed to be. And that very early on, I believed that's how I would get worth, and that's how
Mm,
people would. I mean, it didn't start just in politics. That was a very early on thing that, you know, just generally part of the trauma of growing up for me was I I believed that the only way my mom would tell me she loved me is if I finally did the thing that was good enough. The
right.
the right award, the right success. And I've done so much healing with my relationship with my mother. She actually passed away 12 years ago. Um and healing with her in spirit has been beautiful and amazing, and she's shown up and she's supportive, and she was an artist too. And
Mm,
so there's a lot of maternal healing that comes through my artwork as well. uh but then again, I also look back at her and her life, and she was living out generational trauma too, and her own trauma, and we at some point are doing the best we can with the tools that we have. And that's all.
right. And that's what life is. We learn to do the best thing with what we've got. And what we pick up along the way is either going to help us or hurt us. And being able to recognize the stuff that hurts us or will continue to hurt maybe generations down the line is what matters now, you know? And I don't know. I don't know about none of this. I just talk to people. I just bring messages of hope saying that, hey, if you and I can do it, so can they, because, totally different backgrounds, same states. Yes.
Go Brown.
same, same even area of the state,
Right.
but yeah, it was hard when we were kids in that area. I know, because yeah, there was so much judgment and supposed tos in the schools around that area, and even as adults around that area, that I can understand how you would get stuck into it and sucked into it. And just to get out of it is something amazing. You know, I
Well,
know it would have been hard.
it's been a journey, right? And
Absolutely.
I I am grateful. I there's that thing like you wouldn't change anything because you wouldn't be where you were at now.
Right.
The crucible that I went through was so critical to the transformation
Right.
that I went through that and I wouldn't have the perspective I have now, right? Like if I hadn't been in those places where I was making decisions and doing things and in politics where I was sacrificing my soul, and sometimes I still get nauseous thinking about it.
Mm,
If I didn't know that, I wouldn't know the other side of what it means to show up in true love and hope and healing. And there's just these, or that I can't change the world that way, that I have to simply lean into only what I can do and I can control, which is myself and how I
right.
show up, and shifting that and pulling that really authentic self of authentic me that's been in there forever, that was, masking and holding back some of my strong beliefs, um, and healing things because I didn't feel like it would be accepted, right? And so as I let all that go, again, they're gonna love you or they're gonna hate you, they're gonna hate you, then they're gonna love you. And it's
And
just
there's just things we can't control.
right. So I can control me, and that's about it.
Yeah.
So that's what
Sometimes, I mean, let's be real. Most times I'm out of control of myself. I don't know. I don't know. Yeah. But I do know that we get to do things today. We get to wake up with a smile on our face now. And we get to see the joy in everything else. And that right there is amazing.
well, and good on you, Jay, for creating a platform that shares that with people.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
If there, last question, I ask everybody, if there's one thing that you could get anybody to take away from this, what would it be? And why?
Well, I'll say one thing I haven't said that I say a lot, but I think it
Okay.
kind of sums it all up. So, I clearly I worked in politics for 25 years. I am overtly aware of how the world is, but I choose to live in the world as I want it to be,
Mm,
because I can't live with that joy and that happiness and that fulfillment and the richness of life. And I can't change the world if I keep perpetuating it as I is. I can only change it if I show up as I want it to be. And so I do. And I have, for
I
me.
like that. I like that. I'm going to use that if I can remember it. I'm going to clip that and I'm going to record that,
Yeah,
and it's going to be going on a podcast, just so you know.
that's great. I love it.
Well, I appreciate you coming on here. I appreciate your story and your message. I really do. I think being in politics was hard enough, and doing this is probably easier than that. Way easier, you know. So I still appreciate you, and I thank you for it.
Yep. Well, I appreciate you too, Jay. Thank you so much for having me.
Go Colorado! Still, let's go Broncos. I had to throw that in there,
Whoop, whoop.
and just keep doing the best thing for you, and keep rocking that recovery, because you're doing fantastic.
You too, my friend.
And we're out of here.